Good morning, TV Toastmasters Advanced Club number 9523. I drove in from Maysville today. It took about an hour and a half. A lot of snow on the road. It's a great drive. I think if the drive wasn't as scenic as it is, I probably couldn't come that much. Saw 3 deer. I'm Gordon Kelly, and I will be the contest chairman today. And one thing about saying I'm contest chairman, and one thing I've learned in Toastmasters, is that it seems like I'm constantly doing things that I have no idea how to do. But Carol keeps saying do it, and I keep doing it. Today, a point I wanted to make today is, and I hope I said good morning to all the members and the guests and all the TV audience, but one point I really wanted to make today is there's at least 18 to 20 people here that are actually making this happen. So we all come up to the mic one at a time typically, or maybe two as we introduce someone. But there's really a lot of people here that are working on this to make this a success. And I'm sure today it's going to be a success. What I need to do at this point is introduce our chief judge, Steve Ehrenholz. Good morning, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests, our contestants, and those of you looking in from home. The contestants have been briefed in the rules of the contest, as have the judges and the timers.
I noticed a lot of people today have some heavy boots on because of the snow. And also, though, the person I'm going to introduce next, I believe just spent some time in Florida. And that is going to be our Toastmaster for today. So I'm going to turn this over to the Toastmaster, Gary Reece. Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you ready for a great contest?
Yay.
We have today not one contest, but two. What's the one thing better than a contest? 2 contests, right? Okay. Here's what we have going for us. Today, for TV Toastmasters, we have the International Speech and Evaluation Contest. This contest starts at the club level, and the winner from today will move on to the area contest, Area 53, to be held next month. And the winner from that will go on to the division contest. And from the division, they'll go on to the district. And from the district on to the region. And from the region to the international championship to determine who is the 2007 world champion of public speaking. And out of 300,000 Toastmasters worldwide in 90 different countries, only one will be crowned world champion this year. Now, to get our contest going today, I will introduce our speaker, the title of their speech, the title of their speech, and the speaker. Coming to the lectern first today, or to the microphone as it be, I present to you Mr. Richard Reed, Scary Things. Scary Things, Richard Reed.
Lions and tigers and bears, I think we'll all agree, are pretty scary things, but not nearly as scary as what I'm going to talk about today, which is the theme from the 1954 thriller, Them. Them featured giant ants that were spawned from radioactive fallout. And when I say giant ants, I don't mean 6 inches or 12 inches. I mean the size of a pickup truck. Now, can such a thing occur? Well, let's assume that it can. We'll put reality aside just a little bit and assume that they can exist. Ants the size of a pickup truck. But Galileo Galilei, about 400 years ago, discovered a law that governs the size of all living beings on this planet. Today we call it the square cube law. Now, what is the square cube law? Well, it's the fact that volume grows at a faster rate than area. Now, what does that really mean? Well, Galileo discovered, or observed rather, that shrews had a much larger body size for their leg size than cows did. Cows have a much more massive leg size than for their body size than shrews. And he observed that, and he said, well, he identified that as being the relationship between cross-sectional area, which is the square of a function, and the square of a function, the cross-sectional area of our arms or legs, determine how massive the bones are and how much muscle mass we have. But our volume determines how much we need to support. So let's consider what that really means. If we look at a piece of floor tiles, 1 foot by 1 foot, we have 1 square foot. If we talk about the volume of 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, we have 1 cubic foot. Now let's double that. Then we have 2 feet by 2 feet, giving us 4 square feet. But in volume, we have 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, giving us 8 cubic feet. So you see that although when we double the length of something and double the width, our area goes up by 4, but our volume goes up by 8. Now, let's go back to the ants. What does that mean with the ant the size of a pickup truck? That is roughly 1,000 times larger than a regular ant. And we know that 1,000 times 1,000 would give us 1,000,000 times the area. So the ant will have legs that are 1,000,000 times stronger than he is as a regular ant. But his volume goes up by 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. 1,000,000,000. Wow. Now, what does that mean for the ant? We know that ants are very, very strong. We know that ants can pick up 50 times their weight. And that's pretty impressive, isn't it? What if I could pick up 50 times my weight? I could pick up an automobile in each hand and juggle them. But I can't pick up 50 times my own weight. I can't even pick up my own weight, let alone 50 times it. But let's go back to what that means for that ant that can pick up, now that he has grown in cross-sectional area and strength by 50,000,000 times, what does it take to pick him up? His body is 1,000,000,000 times stronger. There's no way he could even pick himself up. He will do nothing but just lay on the ground, if we could vision such a thing. So Galileo has taught us that giant ants are really not very scary. They will not be able to move. Now, how can we move? We're much bigger than an ant. Well, if we look at ourselves, we have much more massive arms and legs proportional to our bodies. Our bodies are relatively small compared to an ant's body. So we get by simply having different proportions. And what does that mean for us? Let me leave you with an interesting thought. Some of you who are a little vertically challenged might envy those who are a little taller in being able to reach things better. But keep this in mind. Your bodies are much more efficiently developed for longevity and better health than taller people. So there's a good probability that based on that alone, you'll live longer. So I'll leave you with that thought. a little sobering for us taller people, a little enlightening for the shorter ones. Mr. President, Toastmaster.
We now come to international speech contestant number 2. I give you Carol Kormelink, without a trace, Carol Kormelink.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guest at home. Without a trace, are you one of those people who cannot go through the day without a trace of yourself left behind? You talk about road rage, you talked about postal rage, I'm talking about litter swine rage. Are you one of those people that you empty your litter onto the roadway and someone else has to look at it, someone else has to pick it up? Look at the things. They throw pop cans out, cigarette butts, Kleenexes, anything. Now, you don't have to raise your hand if you're one of those litter swines. I don't call them litter bugs. That's too cutesy. They're litter swines because they're disgusting, they're dirty, and they have no consideration for other people. So don't raise your hand if you're one of those, because I don't want to lose any respect for you. I don't even like to go. I went one time and wouldn't go back to the Taste of Cincinnati because it was wall-to-wall gunk on the sidewalks. And I thought, I'm not wading through all this mess. In Milford, we have a big activity called the Frontier Days Parade. And it's been going on for about 46 years. It used to be the next morning, or even that evening after the parade, which is about a 2-hour parade, the streets would be wall-to-wall litter. And I just thought it was so disgusting that people could not pick up after themselves. And even when I went into the bathroom, it's wall-to-wall in Wendy's, everyone wanting to use the one restroom that was handy in that area, you find little pieces of toilet paper all over the floor. Now, why can't the people who put it there, why can't they pick that up? So what I did, after I washed my hands and I had the paper towel, I took the towel and cleaned up all of the floor. Made it nice for the next person. Not so the next person. I had gone several times, and each time that I went to the restroom, there was more paper than the last time, and I'd already picked it up once. So after the third time, I thought, this is really disgusting. And I went to a health resort, and on the wall, they had a little paper that said, after using the restroom, please flush. And I thought, how stupid. And I realized why they had that sign there, because of the stupid people who use the restroom and they don't flush. Have you ever gone into a public restroom and you see this whole big pile of stuff there, and so you turn around and walk out the door? Well, I used to do that, but now I flush it so the next person doesn't know what was there and they can go to the bathroom there. Another thing about keeping the restrooms clean, there are 3 things that a paper towel can do. It can dry your hands, it can wipe off the sink and make it nice for the next person, and it can go in the trash can, push the trash down so that the next person does not have this overflowing can. When you go into the restroom, one person caring does make a difference. I went to a seminar at a hotel that had about 10 basins. Studies have shown that most people will use the first basin. I used number 10. Each time I wiped the basin clear, cleaned it up, put my trash away. At the end of the day, what do you think was in basin number 1? Hair, traces of makeup, gum wrappers, Band-Aids, you name it. What do you think was in basin number 10? Without a trace of anyone having been there. So there are things that you can do, and I challenge you, if you're a litter swine, start taking a litter bag in your car that you can keep the garbage with you, And one of the things that we're trying to get across in Milford is the city of tulips, daffodils, and this is a litter-free community. So if someone taps you on the shoulder and say, "Pardon me, you left this behind," they're going, "Oh no." Well, we want you to take your garbage with you. Walk those 50 feet to the can. How many times have you been in a meeting and you leave the meeting, traces of people left behind? They were too lazy, too indifferent, too uncaring to know that they should pick up their trash and put it in the can. So I'm challenging you to not be a litter swine. Pick up after yourself so there is not a trace of yourself left behind. Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay, while the judges are tabulating their votes, we have an opportunity to speak with one of the contestants at this time. Mr. Dick Reed, would you please come up, sir? Give him a round of applause again.
Hi, Gary.
Hey. Dick, let me ask you a question here. It says notable accomplishments, none. I find that hard to believe.
Oh, I don't. I haven't really done anything in Toastmasters that was notable. I do have a couple of patents, you know, and things in my engineering field, so I've done some good things there, but not really in Toastmasters.
Would you tell us how you got involved in Toastmasters to begin with? How many years ago, and what led you to Toastmasters? Step up.
Okay, I joined Toastmasters in 1986 when I retired the first time, and took another job as a director of engineering, so I had an opportunity to, or a need to speak to other people. And when I first joined Toastmasters at that time, I was terrible. I mean, really, really bad. But I have improved over the past 20 years, and I still have a lot of room for improvement, but I'm working on it.
Would you share with the audience one last thing? Would you tell them about whether or not the club and the members have been supportive in your learning experience in Toastmaster, and maybe possibly use that as a word to encourage anybody out there that's watching this?
Oh, absolutely. My one major regret in life is that I did not join Toastmasters when I first got out of high school. I know my life would have been big time different. When my first speech that I gave in Toastmasters, the grammarian was very kind. They quit counting when they had 60 ahs and ums and filler words. And that brought me up short because I knew I was nervous and scared, but I didn't think I was that bad. But that reminded me to kind of keep track of what I'm saying, and Toastmasters has taught me how to think before I speak, at least some of the time, and organize a speech so that I can get something said that is worthwhile in 5 to 7 minutes. It is often easier to talk for 20 or 30 minutes than it is for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank
Give
you.
him a round of applause, please. I know Toastmasters has taught me to hear things that I normally hadn't thought of or wouldn't hear before I had gotten involved in Toastmasters. My wife, for example, would say to me, "Honey, which do you like better, the brown shoes or the blue shoes?" And now through Toastmasters, I really hear what she's really saying. "Honey, we're getting both pairs of shoes." Okay, it's time to get on with the show. We're going to have the evaluation contest. And the way this works is we have selected a target speaker, a person who none of the other contestants we believe has ever heard before. That's not a rule, but it's just a good rule of thumb to go by. And we're going to have her get up here and speak and give us a speech, and then our evaluators are going to do their best job to evaluate her presentation. Our judges will then choose which evaluation they think was the best, most on target, and so forth. I ask you out there in TV land, watch all the different elements of this presentation. See what it is that she does really well. What is it that might need some help or work? And what is it that you really loved about her presentation? I give to you today our target speaker. Her name is Sally Kerscher. Her presentation is entitled, My New Old Home. My New Old Home, Sally Kerscher.
Welcome, Toastmasters and honored guests. Well, the year was 1999, but I sure wasn't partying like it was 1999. I was going through my divorce, and I was moving out of my beautiful home where I had lived for 12 years. Have you ever tried to get 3,000 square feet of stuff into 900 square feet? Well, I did. I took all my stuff and I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, boo-hooing all the way. I was trying to eliminate non-essentials. I was scared, confused, a little embarrassed, and I was wondering what the future held. The months went by. I found out I could manage pretty well on my own. My friends pulled me through. I started to travel a little bit. I did some new things. I contemplated my future. I decided that I was going to stay in Cincinnati, even though I didn't have a lot of family here. Actually, I had no family here. But I liked the area, and I decided that I would try to put my life together. And I wanted to buy another home. I was really tired of apartment living. My neighbors were, transient and often inconsiderate of my work schedule. There were parties sometimes that lasted into the middle of the night. And I was a little tired of the color schemes and the worn-out carpet. So I decided to bite the bullet. It was time to get on with my life. I wanted my own home again. I called up my friend Maureen. Maureen sold real estate, and I told her of this dream of buying my own house. No problem. So, starting in July of 2002, we would spend a few evenings a week, and often Saturdays, looking at homes in my price range. I had been pre-approved for about $100,000, but that doesn't get you a whole lot in Kentucky. These neighborhoods were very interesting. We went into one house, to start out with the first house that I looked at, and it was quite a large house, actually, but it was older, and the decor was kind of double wide. There was a grass green room, a fire engine red room, a royal blue room, and the kitchen and the dining room were separated by a shower curtain. So you kind of get the picture here. I was starting to get depressed, and those old, insecure, scared feelings were resurfacing. But then I found Bellevue, quite by accident. I was driving around one Sunday, and I decided I needed to stop at Schneider's, which I had just kind of driven by for the first time, and have an ice cream cone. It was very quaint, and as I sat on the bench in front of Schneider's, I was really just taken in by this quaint town. Everybody was bustling around, and it was friendly, and it just kind of charmed me right off my feet. And I didn't even know this town existed. So I told my friend I wanted to look at a few houses in this neighborhood. And we started looking around until I found the love of my life, which was an old Victorian with a big wraparound porch, circa 1901. I walked into the house, and it was white walls, and it was clean, and there was woodwork a foot high and fireplaces, and it had curb appeal to burn. I lit up, and my friend, if looks could have killed, I would have been dead on the floor, because she gave me that look like, don't get too excited, you're going to pay too much. With her help, she kind of grounded me, and we negotiated a price for this house that I could afford. Time went by, everything was approved. It was October. The last Monday, I moved into my house. As the sun set and the moving truck pulled away, I thought, I started having a little buyer's remorse. What was I thinking buying this house? I had lived on a high hill in a safe apartment with a beautiful view of Cincinnati. Suddenly I was in the bowels of Kentucky. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know how to do anything. and I started to question my decision. I didn't know the difference between a screw and a nail or a furnace from a flue. I knew this place would have to have repairs, and I didn't know anyone that would help me able to do it. But I thought, I'll worry about that tomorrow. I put these, concerns aside. I had things to do. I had to go to work the next day. So in the middle of wall-to-wall boxes, I found my clothes for work. I got my sheets on the bed. I found my towels and took a shower, and I set up my alarm clock. By now it's midnight. I get in bed, and I'm kind of scared. I realized a couple of the doors weren't real solid. As a matter of fact, the door that went down into the basement in the old coal bin had like a metal hook that kept it closed. I mean, you could have pushed that right in there. So I started worrying about burglars, and I started hearing every noise, all the creaking in a wood house and in the neighborhood. I was just scared to death. I'll worry about that tomorrow. Calmed myself down, fell asleep. 2:30 in the morning, I wake up, a long, loud train noise. Oh, I've moved in next to a train track. I couldn't believe it. What was I thinking? What else was in store for me? I finally calmed down, but I didn't sleep very well that night, worrying about burglars and expensive repairs, and then I heard a noise. It was an animal roaming around in the attic, in the chimney, in the closet. I didn't know. Now I've got to deal with a critter. And how expensive is that going to be? And is there going to be repairs that I can't afford? And again, calmed myself down. I'll worry about that in the morning. As it turned out, I shouldn't have worried about a thing. I called the critter getter the next guy, not the one that killed his wife. Came over, found out it was a raccoon living in the chimney. Got rid of him and his mate, capped the chimneys fine. I found a contractor that lived 2 streets over, knew all about 100-year-old houses. Put new doors in, most of the windows. These windows that were formerly painted shut were now open to warm summer breezes. The next year I found a contractor in the neighborhood that painted my porch and painted my roof because I had a metal roof. So it was slowly becoming my castle. And I just really started to relax and enjoy this house. I realized that I had more friends and neighbors in this little mile-wide town than I had ever had in all the years that I had lived in Florence. We were within walking distance of each other. I could go to local restaurants and watering holes and enjoy the music and the food any night of the week. I realized that I was not living in a holler in Kentucky, but in a beautiful historic neighborhood with beautiful views of the river and the city. And Bellevue gave me a second life. My niece, who had come to visit me the next year, said something that I thought was really just perfect when she was sitting in front of my vanity combing her hair, and she said, this is really the vanity of a single woman homeowner. You've got your perfume and your lotion over here, and over here you've got your screwdriver and your hammer and your toolbox. And I started to laugh because she was right. I had learned so much about taking care of myself through this home that I had become the perfect husband for myself. So this year, I think I'm going to party like it's 2099. Mr. Toastmaster.
The reason why we evaluate in Toastmasters is it's one of the major things that we offer as an organization. We believe in instantaneous feedback. When you do something, we want to tell you how well you did it, what it is that you need to work on, and what it is we loved about what you did. Because when you leave after a Toastmasters meeting, you will go home with something to think about on how you could improve the next time you come to a meeting. At this point, I will go back and retrieve our contestants, or contestant number 1 for that matter. Are you ready, Nikki? And now to evaluate Sally Kerscher's speech, we have evaluation contestant number 1, Mr. Darren Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Contest Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, members of our audience, and especially Sally. Sally, I'd like to thank you for really brightening my day on a what most people say is a very dreary winter day. I thought that was a fantastic speech. I thought you really took us with you on this journey that you took. I guess it'd be 7 years ago now, as you bought your new home. One thing I like to say about speeches is I think there are two key components to a good speech. One is content, one is delivery. And I think as good as the delivery is, you can't have a great speech without content. I'd like to start out by saying you had fantastic content. I really enjoyed learning about your journey as you first told us about first going through a divorce, and then the entire sequence of events that finally led towards you finding this fantastic 100-year-old house. I thought one thing you did fantastic was the preparation. One thing I like to see in a speech is continuity. And you really did take us from the point of, coming out of a divorce all the way through the different stages you had to get over. You lived in an apartment, you didn't like that. Then you really told us how you kind of had a rebirth and went and decided to buy this house and take a chance and really do something that you hadn't done before. And I thought that content really led us down the trail, which was a very, very interesting story. The other thing I really liked about it was the delivery also, though. I thought you had very good expressions. I think that through your eyes and your face, we really saw when you talked about divorce and when you talked about some of the fears you had, you really expressed that well with your face. The other thing I like is words. I love it when people have words that really convey what they're trying to say. A couple things I picked out from your speech were the double wide decor, which I thought was very interesting, that your house had curb appeal. You said that you didn't know a furnace from a flue. And then finally, I thought the really interesting phrase was you said that I had become the perfect husband for myself. So I thought you had numerous phrases throughout the speech that really made it interesting. There were a few things I thought that could have made the speech even stronger, and they include, even though you did some fantastic gestures, I thought in particular when you made the train noise at 2:30 in the morning, that was very, very interesting, very entertaining. But I thought you could have been even more expressive when you talked about some of the things that you went through, because you went from a time where you were very unsure to a time where now you've completely changed your life, and as I said, you live in this fantastic house. Also, you had a sheet of yellow paper up here, which may have contained notes which you did not use, so you obviously did not need those notes, and that may be one thing to look at in the future. But finally, I'd like to thank you for the presentation, and I think you really did a great job of transporting us to a different place and time in your life for 7 minutes this morning.
And now our second contestant in the evaluation contest today, Kormelink.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guests at home, and especially to Sally. My new old house. I liked your speech because I could easily visualize your journey. And the description of the beautiful home that you gave up to go to the 2-bedroom apartment, that resonated with me because I have a pods outside in my driveway. All my knickknacks in the house are there so that the painters could move all the furniture to the middle of the room, so I can relate with you with all those boxes and the packing. And so I wanted to hear more about your speech. I thought that was very good. And I was hooked right from the beginning because I sort of had a parallel there. I thought you painted very beautiful descriptive phrases when you painted the visual picture and saying about Kentucky, that you weren't in the bowels of Kentucky, and that I could see Bellevue as a quaint, historic neighborhood, very friendly on the river. And I liked your notes about that you didn't know furnace from the flue. You used some of the words that FF, furnace flue, and you didn't know a nail from a screw. That was sort of rhymed a little bit there. And I liked all your different descriptions that you had, and I thought the great thing was that you said you found out you were the perfect husband for yourself, and now you have it all, and maybe a bigger smile, grin, a chessy grin or something that might have helped a little bit to show that you were really very content with your life right now. And I like that you said, the one thing that I didn't understand when you said it had curb appeal to burn. I wasn't quite sure what you meant, if that's a new phrase that I haven't heard before, or what about to burn, if that means it's to die for, or what it was. But I saw that that was very good, your creaking noise, and you had the facial expression to go along with the creaking noise. So I thought, all in all, I liked your speech. I thought it went well together, was well organized, and I'd like to hear more of your speeches, Sally. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, 1 minute of silence. Timers, please give me a 1 minute count. Contestant number 3 for the International Speech Contest, Evaluation Contest, pardon me, Rita Reece.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Hello, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, studio audience, and especially our terrific speaker who weathered the snow to put on the show. Thank you for your speech. You told us about how you became your perfect husband. I thought that was pretty cool. I can relate to what you said because the house I live in was built in the 1930s. I was born in the same house, and there's always a lot of noises and things going on and things that need repaired. I realized that you couldn't move around a lot when you were stuck to the microphone here, so since you didn't have a lot of movement, you probably could maybe use a little bit more vocal variety. For instance, when you were talking about your neighbors' apartments and the noise you heard, you could have said, "Hey, you want to dance?" or "You want to drink, Smitty?" You know, in the middle of the night, so that you could show what you were going through and why you were thinking about buying a house. Just add a little bit more vocal variety since you couldn't move around a whole lot. And I really liked how you brought the train sound out in your vocal variety. That was cool. I'd like to hear the raccoon sound too. But I thought that was nice how you brought that noise out. And I could tell you were very, very knowledgeable about the subject since you lived through it. And I liked how you round up everything too and said that, you know, everybody kind of you made everybody understand that you should go ahead with your plans, that you shouldn't just stop, that you should be positive and comfortable and go ahead and do things, that things work out in the end. I love how you told us about how the area you moved to was a very nice place when you first thought it wasn't going to be, and how you can adapt to things. I really liked your speech. I thought you did a good job, and I appreciate your speech. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Chief Judge, are we ready to commence with the awards?
We are.
May I have the ballots, certificates, the awards, whatever they may be? Would you like to join me up here, Mr. Chief Judge? Madam Timer. Let's raise this up a little, since you've got some height and I don't. Thank you. First, for the evaluation contest. Please hold. We have our certificates of participation, which we will give out at the same time as we give out the awards. Third, Mr. Darren Henderson, our #1 evaluator. Please stay here, Darren. Darren, you will be representing this club at the Area 53 contest, which will be held sometime next month. Time and location to be later disclosed. If you are unable in the speech contest, Carol Kormelink.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And again, Carol, if you are unable to represent us for whatever reason, good cause, photos should somehow surface of you in a compromising position, I don't know. But if something should happen where you're unable to represent us, we will have second place. We'll stand in your stead. We will have to strip you of your... I am your Toastmaster today and the president of Toast TV Toastmasters. My name is Gary Reece. We thank you for joining us. We hope that you've been inspired and encouraged to get involved in Toastmasters. It changes lives and it achieves dreams. Thank you.